Welcome back to Analytical Media. We are a consortium, a group of therapists, college professors, and well-published, peer-reviewed authors. Today's topic is the Steven Bixby case, which involves a deadly 2003 standoff in Abbeville, South Carolina. Steven Bixby is now cleared to be executed in 2026. He was involved in a shooting, killing 2 police officers. These 2 murders were done by sovereign citizens. Steven, at the time of the shooting, was in his early 30s. His father was involved in the shooting, and his mother was involved in the shooting. Both his father and mother were sentenced to prison for their involvement. They both died in prison. Steven has survived them and has exhausted all of his appeals, and he has been cleared for execution in 2026. All of this, the murders of these police officers, involved a property dispute. Now, the bigger topic that you see in research on sovereign citizens, the bigger topic, perhaps the biggest topic, is how dangerous are sovereign citizens? Many people, mostly people who are not familiar or who are only newly familiar with sovereign citizens, most of them believe they're not dangerous. Now, your American government, they believe they're dangerous. The Department of Homeland Security lists sovereign citizens as the number 1. Not number 2, not number 3, not sort of, sometimes, maybe, could. The number 1 domestic terrorist threat. Remember that. Homeland Security. Who is the number 1 domestic terrorist threat? Sovereign citizens. Now, the 2 police officers that these sovereign citizens killed, they would probably, if they were alive, they would probably contend that they're very dangerous. And they will murder whenever it's convenient for them. And it was convenient, and they killed 2 police officers. And what it was about is the Department of Transportation in South Carolina wanted to enlarge a road that was going near the Bixby's property. And they wanted to enlarge it and take the Bixby's property, some of it, pay them for it, but the Bixby's didn't want to give it up because it's their property. And they said repeatedly they would kill any police that came to try to take their property. And they were men and women of their word. They did kill the police that came to take the property. They sent 2 died. Now, I'd like to propose a little thought hypothesis for you, a thought problem you can deal with. Think about. If someone says that they're willing to die to protect their property, is that okay? They're willing to die. Let's compare that to people who say that they would kill to protect their property. Somehow that seems different. To be willing to die, well, it's your life. You have a right to give it up. You lay down under the tractor trailer to protect your property, and you'll get killed by the tractor trailer. You'll chain yourself to a tree that they're going to cut down, and you'll die with it. It's your choice, it's your life. But to kill to protect land, I mean, you like that land. I haven't seen that land, but I'm willing to bet it looks like all the rest of the land. It's just land. This was out in the country, it was rural. I could see you love it. I could see 10 generations of Bixbys were born on that land. Hell, the Bixbys had a big party when the Pilgrims came over. Had a big party for the Pilgrims. They were here before Columbus. They were here before the Vikings. They were the Bixbys. They loved their land. That's fine. You could love it all you want. You could be willing to die for it. But is it okay to kill to protect your land? And remember, we are supposed to be a nation of laws. And sovereign citizens reject those laws. Say, no, they're not real. Those laws don't count. because the American government is a corporation, so no laws count. And I follow God's laws. Well, you know, how many people have died in the name of God? Now, I'm not suggesting that God has motivated anyone to kill, or that God himself killed, but very fallible human beings have interpreted God's law to kill other people. That's what the Crusades were about in the Middle Ages. Millions. Millions and millions, tens of millions, dozens of millions, perhaps hundreds of millions have been killed under the name of God. So when someone says they follow God's laws, it's not saying that much, because God's never spoken to them. It's just somebody told them what God said. Somebody interpreted the Bible for them, or their holy book or their religious book. But God didn't do it. A very fallible human being did it. Just a human being. And sovereign citizens say, well, they follow God's laws. Well, how do you know what God's laws are? You know what your minister said they are. You know what your rabbi said they are. You know what your priest said they are. Your pastor said they are. But do you know really what God wants you to do? Does he want you to kill to protect your land? And that, in a nutshell, is the problem with sovereign citizens. Or the big question, are they violent or not violent? Are they a threat to this country or not? Are they a threat to the government the way we know it? Well, if you'd like to drive down a road at 65 miles an hour, like the sign says, you like that idea that nobody else can drive down the road faster than you, and if they do, they're going to get punished for it. Well, sovereign citizens say no, they can drive down the road 125 miles an hour. They do say that. And if you think you can drive down the road with some safety, that if your car gets hit and there's major injury to you or a loved one, that the other person will have insurance that will pay your medical bills if they're at fault. But sovereign citizens don't believe that. They don't believe they have to have insurance. They don't believe they have to get their cars inspected. They don't believe they have to have a license plate, or for that matter, a driver's license. And do they say that they have to follow the school sign that says, when this light is flashing, the speed limit here is 15 miles per hour? No, they don't follow that rule. They don't. They keep driving 55, 65, because I guess that's what God wanted them to do. They have no respect for the laws of the country they live in, the laws that ordinary people follow. Now, Steven Bixby's mother was Rita. His father was Arthur. They both died in prison from this incident, and they adhered to sovereign citizen ideology. They rejected all government authority and believed that U.S. law, including property regulations, were unconstitutional. Now you might ask, I would ask, who are Arthur and Rita that they thinks they understand the Constitution better than constitutional lawyers, better than Supreme Court justices? You don't have a right to your own interpretation. It's not like all of us decides what the Constitution means. We follow the laws, and the Constitution is judged according to law. A system of appeals. We have local judges, we have higher courts, we have state superior courts, we have a federal Supreme Court. It doesn't matter what I say or you say. It matters what those justices say. But somehow sovereign citizens think they know better than everybody else. The country's been here 250 years, following that Constitution, which they say is bogus. And the thing is, if it is bogus, it'll be up to the Supreme Court justices to tell us that. Be up to you to pay for all the lawsuits all of the appeals that are going to follow way up to the Supreme Court. You have to pay for that or get a group of your friends together. You can all pay for it together. But they decide, we don't decide. That's the law. You hear that term, law-abiding citizen. Sovereign citizens are not law-abiding citizens. They are not even citizens. They claim all kinds of nonsense. But they claim they're not sovereign citizens because it's a contradiction in terms. It's an oxymoron, which it is. But they didn't complain about it until it was pointed out to them about 10 years ago how foolish it was to call themselves sovereign citizens. And yes, I wouldn't like it if the state came along and confiscated my land. Now they pay you for it, and you can appeal that, how much you get paid, and you can do pretty good. You know, you can get double what its actual worth is. It's an inconvenience, and you like where you're at. I understand that. But are you willing to kill over it? Are you willing to kill the guy that breaks in your house to shoot your innocent daughter? Probably you are. But are you willing to kill the guy who's following the law and coming to serve you papers to get you to move from your property? Are you willing to kill over that? Stephen's father, Arthur, was a prolific litigant, filing lawsuits against family members, residents, and public official. That's from Bixby versus Sterling, 2022a. Sovereign citizens do that. They're paper terrorists, among other things. Just as this says he was a prolific litigant, all sovereign citizens are prolific litigants when they get in trouble with the court. Now, way back in 1981, Arthur and Rita were involved in a lawsuit over some unpaid $850 or $800, something in the neighborhood of something unpaid, a civil action, and the judge ordered Bixby to jail. Whereupon Arthur and Rita were so threatening towards the then Superior Court Judge Linda Delineidis, who was the justice assigned to the case, that she was given a round-the-clock security detail, as reported by Clifford in 2025. Now, the Bixbys in 2003 were notified by South Carolina Department of Transportation that they planned to widen Highway 72, which would require an easement across the Bixby property. The family, who identified as sovereign citizens, disputed the easement's validity, claiming it was a forgery and that the government has no jurisdiction over their land. That's interesting, isn't it? The government has no jurisdiction over your land. You talk about America as the land of the free, and perhaps it is the freest place on earth. However, your freedoms are limited by hundreds of thousands of laws, regulations, policies. Literally. No one knows how many laws there are. As ridiculous as that sounds, no one knows. Hundreds of thousands of laws. The best estimate from a reputable source as of a few years ago was there was approximately 250,000 laws. All of those, by the way, limit your freedom. No, you're not free. It's the land of the free, but you can't go out and shoot anybody. And you can pursue happiness, but you can't victimize women on the street. You can't rob banks. And that's the only way you can have a society, and you wouldn't want it any other way. As a good citizen, a good human being, you would not want it any other way. They view property rights as absolute, rooted in their belief that only natural law applies. Natural law. That, by the way, is what Romana Didelot in Canada right now, if you're familiar with that case. If not, look it up. We have, maybe we'll put that at the end of the video. We've done a lot on Romana. That's how she's willing to be tried. She was arrested, but she's only going to accept natural law. That's it. She's not going to accept Canadian law, just like the Bixbys don't accept U.S. law. She will only take natural law. whatever the hell that means. And they killed 2 people over this view, 2 police officers, and they're going to kill their son next year. Their son should be executed. It's scheduled. There's nothing left. No appeals left. So in essence, they will have killed 3 people because they didn't want an easement across their land, a right-of-way. On December 4th, 2003, South Carolina Department of Transportation Superintendent Glenn McCaffrey goes to the Bixby home with 2 employees, Rita acting as a family spokesperson. Rita calls the easement documents forgeries and threatens violence, stating the family would fight till the last breath and there would be hell to pay. She denies that the Sheriff's Department has any authority over her. This is common with sovereign citizens. One day later, December 5th, at 12 o'clock, Steven discusses the dispute with neighbor Dr. Mark Horton, expressing anger towards South Carolina Department of Transportation. Horton suggests legal recourse, the neighbor. But Steven's fixation on confrontation grows. 2 days after that, December 7th, in the evening, at a social gathering at ex-girlfriend Elaine Taylor's home, Steven tells Taylor and her daughter, Dana Newton, he is angry and will shoot law enforcement if they approach the property. The day after that, December 8th, in the morning about 9 o'clock, Deputy Sheriff Sergeant Danny Wilson and Magistrates Constable Donnie Ouzts plans to mediate the dispute at the Bixby home, aware of prior threats. Now, can you mediate with sovereign citizens? I'd say no, you can't mediate. They will not budge a drop from their nonsensical positions. But they try anyway. Approximately 11 o'clock a.m., Wilson and Ouzts approach Steven and Arthur. They both open fire from inside the home. Wilson is shot multiple times. After they shot Wilson, they handcuffed him, dragged him into the house, and left him to die on the living room carpet, handcuffed. And that's how he was later found by the police. Ouzts is also killed. Rita was present but not shooting. She refuses to de-escalate and is arrested nearby. There is a 14-hour standoff. Steven and Arthur barricade themselves, firing hundreds of rounds at police. Hundreds of rounds. Are these violent people? Are they trying to protect that orphanage as crazy Russians are trying to come and kill the orphans? No. They've already killed 2 cops, and they're firing hundreds of rounds trying to kill more because they want to put a right-of-way, an easement over their property. So they're willing to kill them. Already killed 2, willing to kill a whole lot more. Because after all, land is that important. They weren't stealing the land. I want you to realize they were going to be paid for this and well paid for it, and it happens all the time. Can't help it. It's for the public good. It's the way it is. It's a chance you take in life because of the public good. What's good for the public. It may not be for you, but it will be for the hundreds of people that travel down that highway every day. Could save a lot of lives. I wouldn't like it either, but you have to accept it. You can fight it in court, how much you're being paid. And you could end up being well paid. Robots reveal Arthur is injured. At approximately 11 o'clock that evening, Arthur surrenders. Then Steven surrenders, and it ends the standoff. Steven was charged with 2 counts of murder, assault and battery with the intent to kill. He's charged with criminal conspiracy and firearms offenses. Arthur faced similar charges. Rita is charged with accessory before the fact and conspiracy. Prosecutors seek the death penalty for all persons involved. At their arraignment, Steven invokes sovereign citizen rhetoric, calling the court illegitimate, comparing himself to victims of federal overreach. February 18th, 2007. Steven is convicted on all counts. The jury recommends death during the penalty phase. Arthur and Rita's appeals in death. Arthur is deemed unfit for trial due to dementia and committed to a mental health facility. Rita's conviction is upheld. Arthur and Rita die in prison within a week of each other. Steven appeals and appeals and appeals. Steven testifies. These are in the appeals. In an 11-minute speech, he calls prior rulings, quote, treasonous, and quotes Thomas Jefferson, reinforcing sovereign rhetoric. Steven's statements reflect a persistent belief in government illegitimacy, consistent with sovereign citizen ideology. The judge issued a 24-page order ruling Steven competent, finding his beliefs obstinate but not delusional. He notes Steven's ability to process new information and communicate rationally, clearing the path for an execution warrant. The ruling distinguishes sovereign beliefs as a chosen ideology, not a mental defect, aligning with precedent that ideological extremism does not render one incompetent. The property that the Bixbys fought over, killed 2 police officers over, and arranged the death of the son, Steven, to occur at the earliest the very end of this year, 2025, and most likely then 2026, if not 2025. This property, this magnificent home, this palace that they killed over. Now remember, there's a difference, right, between dying for something and killing for something. You have a choice, you could die, but what about kill? Doesn't it say somewhere, thou shalt not kill? I think that's one of the big ones, maybe the biggest one, thou shalt not kill. It doesn't say you can't risk your life and die. It doesn't say that. You could risk your life and die. You're willing to die for it. You know, well, I'll fight until my last breath. I'll die fighting. But it doesn't say killing. You should be killing. Killing because they want to put a piece of a highway on your property. They want an easement. They want a right-of-way. And you're willing to kill somebody over that. Somebody who's innocent. The people that are coming, they're just underlings. They're doing their job. They're cops who were ordered there by their superior officers who were ordered to do that by judges. And you're willing to kill these people. And plenty more, because when the rest of the cops came to recover the bodies of their dead fallen victims and end this siege, they were willing to kill those cops and tried, firing hundreds of rounds. Anyway, the Bixby estate, the Bixby mansion, one of the 7 wonders of the world that's worth killing over, I guess. It was demolished in 2018. I'm not saying they should have liked it, but I'm saying they should have followed the law. Just like you should follow the law and I should follow the law. And everyone should follow the law. You don't have to like it. You don't have to like it when you get a ticket, but that's the law. You might not like it when you get a ticket for driving 80 in a 65 zone. You might not like it at all. In fact, I doubt that you would like it. You might have felt that you could really drive 80 there perfectly well. You might point out that other people were driving 80 also, but that doesn't make any difference. You know the law says 65. And you know what the punishment is if you don't drive 65. Here's a punishment. And do we really complain that much? Do you really complain that much? You kill the traffic cop over that, or go drive down to the magistrates and shoot them? Well, you might if you were a sovereign citizen, and in fact they have. They have. Sovereign citizens have killed police officers. So that's the Steven Bixby story. He's 58 now. He's on death row at Broad River Correctional Institution. We've covered this today because we're looking at How dangerous are sovereign citizens? Is the government wrong saying they are the #1 domestic terrorism threat? Well, at AntiGovernmentExtremism, we don't disagree with that. These people are willing to kill for what they believe in. And they have. They've killed police officers. They've engaged in many acts of violence. We would like to live in a world where you can go to the store and pretty well expect you're not going to get shot. Where you can safely drive down a highway and nobody's going to pass you at 130 miles an hour. Seriously, a controlled world where laws govern behavior, laws written by people we have voted into office, city councils, township officials, state legislators, federal legislators and senators. They write the laws. We vote them into office. In essence, the country could be divided into two groups: those who follow the laws and those who live outside the laws. Now, it's certainly by degree, maybe we'd rather say, or you'd rather hear, those who follow most of the laws, but not some, and those who follow almost none of the laws and rules of society, except for maybe one or two, or a couple, or three or four, or a dozen. It's a matter of degree, certainly. But we'd like to believe that we are safe in this world, or safer, or as safe as laws can make it. And that was the whole purpose of having laws. It's the whole purpose of the Constitution. And the Constitution is no more than a group of laws and policies. Are sovereign citizens dangerous? You make up your own mind. I think it's perfectly clear they are. You can see what they do. They're willing to kill over a land dispute. Is someone who will kill over a land dispute violent, dangerous? You make up your own mind. Yes, you're not happy that they want to condemn a part of your property, take it, pay you for it. You don't like it. You like right where you're at. You like the apple tree where you planted it. It's just going to start bearing fruit in a year or two. You don't like it. But are you willing to kill over it? I say not. I say good people don't do that. And I'm saying that a good citizen supports its government. It doesn't have to like it. It can vote for change. It can produce change. But it's not going to kill to protect land. A good citizen might kill to protect the innocent, your innocent child, the neighbor's innocent child. It would be a last resort, but you would be willing to do it to protect the innocent from killers. But would you do it over land? Would you kill your neighbor because he stole your newspaper? Would you kill your neighbor if he stole your newspaper 7 days out of 7 days? He steals the paper every day. Would you kill him over that? Maybe you'd move, maybe you'd have him arrested, but I don't think a decent human being would kill over somebody stealing their newspaper. And that's the question we've addressed about sovereign citizens. The split among researchers, published people. The split. Some people say, yes, they're dangerous, they're anti-government. American government says they're the #1 domestic terrorism threat. And people will say, nah, they're not dangerous. They're just victims of society. They've just had it tough in life. Well, the Bixbys must have had it awful tough to kill 2 cops and try to kill a dozen more. This is Analytical Media. We've looked into this question for you. I hope you've liked it. We go deep into things. We're doing legitimate academic research right here on the air. We are a group of academics, every one of us. Please subscribe, pass this along to a friend, like it, and look for the next video. We'll have another one up soon. Until then, hope everything's going well for you. Take care, and see you soon.